The next morning dawned with a sense of urgency. Sunlight streamed through the window, casting patterns on the kitchen table, but Sarah barely noticed. She felt like she was moving in slow motion, thoughts tumbling over one another in her head. How could she encourage her daughter to believe in change? Emily had always been so full of fire and spirit, yet now she was extinguishing her own light. Over breakfast, a silence hung between them, thick and uncomfortable. Sarah turned to Emily, determined to break the ice. "You know, I was thinking of inviting the neighbors over for a potluck," she suggested, trying to sound casual. "Maybe we could talk about what we can do to help Jim." Emily's fork paused over her plate, brow furrowing in confusion. "A potluck? Mom, they barely even say hi anymore. What makes you think they'll come?" "I think they will, if we show them we care." Determination filled Sarah's voice as she leaned closer. "If we rally together, we can help him keep his home. What would that say about us as a community?" She watched as a flicker of interest danced behind Emily's eyes, but it faded just as quickly. "It's hopeless," Emily muttered, looking down at her half-eaten toast. "Nobody wants to get involved. Everyone is too busy with their own problems." Those words struck Sarah like a bolt of lightning. She had grown accustomed to feeling like an island, isolated in her struggles. "But we have to try." "Why?" Emily shot back, frustration evident in her expression. "Why should we care when no one else seems to?" Sarah's heart ached at the weight of her daughter's despair. "Because compassion creates change," she replied, her voice softening. "And hope is infectious." She found herself wishing that Emily could see the power of their community, the potential for connection that lay just beneath the surface. The day dragged on, filled with mundane tasks and checks of the clock. Sarah spent her lunch hour composing flyers, pouring her heart into them, detailing the potluck and the importance of supporting Jim. When she returned home, she found Emily sitting cross-legged on her bed, headphones in, lost in her own world. Sarah hesitated, guilt gnawing at her. Was she asking too much? As the sun dipped low in the sky, the weight of the impending potluck pressed on Sarah's shoulders. She stepped outside, taking a deep breath of the crisp evening air, willing herself to gather strength. Jim's home loomed nearby, and she felt an insistent tugging at her conscience. He was one of their own, a man whose spirit had sacrificed so much. It was time to act. "Emily," she called softly, walking back inside. "I'm going to start knocking on doors, inviting people directly." "Mom," Emily hesitated, her tone uncertain. "Join me?" Sarah asked, suddenly desperate for Emily's presence, for that spark of energy she knew was buried somewhere inside her daughter. After a long pause, Emily slowly nodded, uncertainty still clouding her eyes. "Fine. But I don't believe this will work." "That's okay," Sarah replied, heart fluttering with a mix of fear and hope. "We can do it anyway." As they ventured out into the neighborhood, a mix of dread and excitement filled Sarah's chest. Every knock felt monumental, heralding a potential shift. Would they find not just assistance for Jim but a chance to reconnect with their neighbors along the way? Yet, with every door that opened, the weight of doubt pressed heavier on them. Would their small act of courage be enough? The community teetered on the edge of apathy, and who knew if they would rally together or continue to drift apart, but what she didn't expect was the unexpected ally that emerged from a hidden corner of their neighborhood. As Sarah and Emily approached the first house, a familiarity wrapped around them. It was the Perkins, a family they knew well enough but hadn't seen much of lately. Sarah raised her hand, hesitating for a moment before knocking firmly on the door. She hoped, maybe just a little, that they'd find a friendly face. Moments later, Mrs. Perkins answered, a warm smile overshadowed by the concern etched on her face. "Sarah. Emily. What a surprise." "Hi, Mrs. Perkins," Sarah replied, forcing a cheerful tone despite the flutter of nerves. "We're just going around inviting neighbors to a potluck to discuss how we can help Jim." "Oh, that's thoughtful of you," she said, but Sarah sensed a flicker of reluctance in the air. "Do you think you could join us?" As Mrs. Perkins mused, her gaze shifted to Emily, who stood with her arms crossed, relaying her doubts without saying a word. Emily's presence felt like a tether, pulling Sarah back. But she pressed on, "I know things feel tough right now, but it's a chance for everyone to come together. We can't just let our community fade away, can we?" "You're right," Mrs. Perkins finally said. "But it's been hard for all of us." Her voice softened. "I don't know if anyone will show." "No one else seems to care," Emily interjected, her frustration simmering beneath the surface. "Emily," Sarah whispered, trying to catch her daughter's eye. "Let's just give it a shot." Mrs. Perkins nodded slowly. "I'll talk to Mr. Perkins. If you send me details, we'll try to make it." With a hint of hope buoying her spirits, Sarah thanked her and turned to leave, but not before Mrs. Perkins added, "I admire you two for trying, really, I do." With each door they knocked on, the encounters brought a blend of encouragement and resistance. Each time they met a hesitant neighbor, Sarah's heart wavered, but sometimes hope flickered. Mr. and Mrs. Johnson pledged to bring a side dish, and the Ramirez family promised to contribute drinks. Slowly but surely, the invisible ties that bind a community began to resurface, yet, when they reached the end of the street, only one house remained: the old Collins residence. Rumors had been swirling for years about Mr. Collins, an elderly recluse who rarely ventured out. Sarah felt a pit in her stomach. "Should we?" she asked, glancing at Emily. Emily sighed. "I suppose it wouldn't kill us." Taking a deep breath, Sarah knocked, the sound echoing like a drumbeat in the quiet neighborhood. After a moment, the door creaked open to reveal a pair of tired eyes behind thick glasses. "Can I help you?" Mr. Collins asked, suspicion shadowing his voice. "Hi, I'm Sarah, and this is my daughter Emily. We're inviting everyone to a potluck to support Jim," she rushed out, heart racing. "We'd love for you to come." Mr. Collins studied them for a beat, and then something softened in his expression. "Jim, he's a good man." "Yes, he is," Sarah said, encouraged. "He needs all of us right now." The door creaked wider as Mr. Collins returned to the shadows of his home. "I'll think about it," he said curtly, closing the door halfway. Sarah felt deflated, as if the air had been sucked from her lungs. But before they turned to leave, Mr. Collins' voice rang out. "The thing is, people out here have forgotten what matters most." As they walked away, Emily whispered, "He'll never come." But Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that there was more beneath the surface. "He could be a key," she murmured, looking back at the closed door, wondering if perhaps they had just tapped into something deeper than they understood. As they strolled back home, the fading sunlight painted the sky in hues of orange and purple. Each footstep felt softer, lighter. But Sarah knew the challenge ahead was only beginning. Would their efforts truly awaken the community, or would they simply fade into the shadows? Tomorrow would reveal the answer. The morning light streamed through the window, waking Sarah with its gentle glow. She stretched and took a moment to collect her thoughts. Today was the potluck, the first step into the heart of their community's revival, or so she hoped. Emily was already up, her face buried in her phone. "Mom," Mrs. Johnson messaged. "She's bringing her famous potato salad." "Great news." Sarah replied, her heart lifting. "That's the kind of dish people love." "You think anyone else will show up?" Emily's tone was flat, a mirror reflecting the doubt that nagged at both of them. "Let's not focus on that. Today, we're going to celebrate the effort and the people who care," Sarah said, trying to infuse her voice with optimism. They hurried to prepare, packing up the dishes they had made together, the warm casserole and warm bread rolls, the scents mingling in a cozy embrace. As they stepped outside, the cool breeze danced around them, a promise of the change they were striving for. The community center was half a mile down the road, a familiar place for both of them. But as they approached, trepidation tinged the excitement. "Do you think anyone else will be here?" Emily asked yet again, glancing at the empty parking lot. "Let's just find out," Sarah replied, her determination outweighing her worries. Inside, the room echoed with their footsteps, and Sarah glanced around at the table still waiting for food, laughter, and conversation. The reality that their turnout might be small settled over her like a heavy blanket. But before she could dwell on that, the door swung open, and Mr. and Mrs. Johnson walked in, grinning and waving a dish. "Did you really think we'd let you do this alone?" Mr. Johnson called out, placing his dish on the table with care. One by one, neighbors trickled in, bringing pies, salads, and casseroles, some shy but smiling, some greeting each other like long-lost friends. Hope bubbled within Sarah. As the chatter filled the room, Sarah stepped back to watch. People were laughing, sharing stories, and there it was, the spark of connection. Emily stood near the door, slightly hesitant, her arms still crossed. But Sarah noticed her eyes softening as she recognized faces, some she hadn't seen in a while. "Mom, look at Mr. Collins," Emily whispered urgently. Sarah turned to see Mr. Collins shuffling in, his once tired eyes now bright with a hint of surprise. "I thought I'd stop by. Good to see everyone," he murmured, taking a seat by the window. Sarah's heart soared, threading hope through her veins. She walked over, bringing a plate of warm bread. "I'm really glad you came, Mr. Collins." He hesitated, then his gaze met the warm exchange between neighbors. "You know, maybe I've forgotten a few things about what it means to be part of a community." The conversation swirled around them, brimming with laughter and camaraderie. It seemed that Mr. Collins might just rediscover what he had lost. Then, without warning, the door slammed open, and a group of teenagers flooded in, giggling and playful, faces fresh with curiosity about the gathering. Their energy wrapped around the room like a blanket of warmth. "Whoa! What's happening here?" one of them asked, eyes sparkling. "A potluck!" Emily exclaimed, suddenly alight with enthusiasm. "You should join us." As the teens filled plates and mingled, the room seemed to pulse with life. A hesitant smile crept onto Sarah's face as she observed her daughter, who finally uncrossed her arms and joined in the fun. In that moment, a part of her believed they could actually do this, rebuild what had been forgotten. But just then, a loud crash echoed from the kitchen. Sarah's heart dropped as she rushed towards the noise. What had happened? Inside, she found a table overturned, plates clattering, and in the chaos, Mrs. Johnson was scrambling to gather the fallen dishes. "Oh no, I'm so sorry," she exclaimed, flustered. And just like that, Sarah felt the weight of her heart shift. Could this be another sign of struggle amidst the good? With a deep breath, she stepped into the room, ready to handle whatever came next. Was this setback a curse or a twist on their journey to revitalizing their neighborhood? As she knelt to help Mrs. Johnson, Sarah felt the pulse of the community around her, still hopeful yet uncertain. What else lay ahead in this transformative moment? As Sarah knelt there, plates scattered at her feet like discarded dreams, she couldn't help but feel a surge of responsibility. Mrs. Johnson's face turned a shade of crimson, the weight of her mistake heavy in the air. "I shouldn't have rushed," the older woman fretted, looking down at the mess. "Let us not dwell on that," Sarah said gently, her heart pounding. "It's just a little chaos. We can fix this together." The determination to lift the mood surged within her. As she reached to help gather the plates, she felt a warmth in her chest, the community spirit still vibrant, as if encouraging her to take charge. Together, they began to restore order in the kitchen. Mrs. Johnson found a dish that had barely survived the fall, the potato salad still intact. "Thank goodness!" she exclaimed, relief washing over her. "See? A little bump in the road can't stop us," Sarah smiled, her thoughts racing. What if this was part of the journey? Each fall was just a chance for another rise. As they cleaned, the sound of laughter filtered in from the main room, filling Sarah with hope once again. She peeked around the door frame to see Mr. Collins animatedly sharing a story while the teenagers listened attentively. Emily stood near him, her hands gesturing excitedly as she chimed in. This was what they wanted: connection, laughter, warmth, just as Sarah turned back to Mrs. Johnson, another commotion erupted. "Oh no, not again." A voice called from the hall. Rushing towards the sound, they found a toddler, oblivious to the brewing storm, perched atop an unsteady stack of chairs, his giggles ringing through the air. Sarah's heart dropped, bracing for chaos. "No, sweetie, get down," she called, both fearful and amused, but in the chaos of laughter and calls for the child, something shifted inside Sarah. With the teen group rallying to safely lower the boy, she saw how these little moments sparked more connections. It wasn't just about celebrating food, it was about the people, the connections being formed, repaired, and rekindled with every mishap. "Hey, everyone! It looks like we've got a new friend joining us today," a voice bellowed from the group as they successfully brought the toddler down to safety. The energy in the room seemed to amplify as everyone turned their attention back to the gathering, admiration written all over their faces. As she watched the tear-inducing joy painted across the room, Sarah felt a sense of belonging start to cement itself in her heart. Each stumble, each laugh shared, each dish meant more now. "See?" She turned to Mrs. Johnson, who was now smiling widely. "Every mistake has brought us closer." From across the room, Emily caught her mother's gaze and gave a little thumbs up, the kind parents long for but seldom receive. A rush of love flooded Sarah as she smiled back, silently thanking her daughter for reminding her that they were in this together. Just then, the door swung open again, but this time it was Mayor Thompson, a pillar of the community, stepping in, followed by two news reporters. "I heard there was a potluck today. Mind if we join?" His presence brought a new spark, a realization of their efforts celebrated even outside their immediate circles. The chatter hummed with excitement, but uncertainty flickered in Sarah's heart. Would they measure up? Were they ready for the spotlight? She exchanged nervous glances with Emily. As people began to gather around, questions floated in the air, laughter mixed with an undertow of anxiety. Sarah felt her palms sweat. Had their plan for community revival truly captured attention, or would it all come crashing down? In that moment, Sarah took a deep breath, ready to face whatever was next. Could this potluck really lead to something bigger than either she or Emily had imagined? Would it strengthen the community ties they so desperately wanted to restore, or would it expose their vulnerabilities? The unfolding scene buzzed with anticipation. What would it take for Sarah to balance hope against the fear of being under scrutiny? She gripped the edge of the counter, ready to dive into the chaos ahead, as the door swung open once more. A gust of fresh air rushed into the room as the door opened again, almost magnetically drawing everyone's attention. Sarah squinted against the sudden light, her heart racing as she recognized a familiar face stepping across the threshold. It was George, the town's retired school principal, and he was followed by a group of local kids. "We heard about the potluck and thought we'd bring some treats," he announced, his smile broad and contagious. The kids carried boxes overflowing with homemade cookies and brownies, their faces beaming with pride. A wave of relief washed over Sarah. This was the spirit she had been hoping for, a coming together of generations, each contributing their little piece of the pie, quite literally. "Look at that!" Sarah exclaimed, bending down to give the nearest child a high five. "You've got all the best sweets right there. Tell me your names." The kids clamored in with eager introductions, the atmosphere gradually thawing any lingering tension. Emily stepped forward, enthusiasm bubbling in her chest. "Can I help set them up?" she asked, her eyes sparkling. Sarah beamed at her daughter, feeling that refresh of pride as if Emily was, in her own right, stepping into leadership. "Absolutely," Sarah replied, glancing at Mrs. Johnson, who nodded, her earlier concerns melting away with this fresh burst of energy. "Let's rally everyone. Who wants to help with the dessert table?" Before she knew it, people sprang into action. The kitchen buzzed with a new rhythm, laughter and banter cutting through the air like sweet icing. The earlier chaos of falling plates had transformed into a chorus of harmony woven by the community's gathered spirit. Sarah felt lighter, perhaps she could lead them through the excitement and keep the momentum rolling. Writing on the chalkboard hung up in the corner, volunteers hurried to update the menu, adding sweet station at the top with bright-colored chalk. The sight swelled Sarah with warmth. This was what she dreamed of, everyone putting in the effort, excited to collaborate and create. She caught sight of Mayor Thompson laughing heartily with Mr. Collins and Mrs. Johnson, the earlier nervousness seemingly forgotten. The reporters were snapping pictures, capturing the scene of laughter and unity, perhaps to share it far beyond their little town's borders, yet, as the merriment swirled around her, a flutter of doubt crept in. Sarah stole a glance toward Emily, who stood confidently placing plates of cookies on the new display. What if they couldn't keep up this momentum? What if it wasn't enough to impress the mayor or the press? With a sigh, she reminded herself of the journey so far. It wasn't just about impressing anyone, it was about the fabric of this community weaving tighter with each small victory. Each plate gathered, each shared laugh, was another stitch in the quilt of connection. "Hey, Sarah!" called a voice from the back, pulling her from her worries. It was George, gesturing excitedly. "Why don't we start an impromptu talent show after this? Keep the energy rolling." A collective gasp and cheer erupted from the crowd. Laughter mixed with playful groans about who would dare sing or perform. Sarah's heart leaped. Yes. This was the way to continue building the connections, even through silly performances. "I love that idea," Sarah called, enthusiasm bubbling up within her. "But first, let us make sure we enjoy our wonderful food, then we'll share our hidden talents." As they all cheered in agreement, Sarah felt the weight of unease lift. This was going to be more than just a potluck, it was transforming into a real celebration, a night neither she nor anyone else would soon forget. As the gathering continued to swell and laughter echoed louder, Sarah caught her daughter's eye once more. Emily shrugged, a playful grin on her face. "What's next, Mom?" They both stood ready for whatever would come, hands intertwined in connection, realizing that the best moments often arrive when you're least prepared. Then, before Sarah could respond, the back door creaked open again, revealing unfamiliar faces, eyes wide with curiosity and a hint of hesitation. What were they here for? How many more surprises could the evening hold? The murmurs in the room hushed to a whisper. Sarah's heart raced again, not out of anxiety this time but pure intrigue. The newcomers stood awkwardly just inside the doorway, unsure whether to step further in or turn back to where they had come from. Their expressions said it all, curiosity mixed with trepidation. "Come on in. You're just in time for our potluck," Sarah called, her voice warm and welcoming, an invitation that felt genuine to her. She took a step forward, feeling an urge to bridge that gap. The uncertainty in their eyes softened, and slowly, they moved deeper into the room. The group consisted of 3 young adults, each carrying what looked like homemade dishes wrapped in foil. One of them, a tall young man with tousled hair, stepped forward with a tentative smile. We heard about the gathering from some friends, and we wanted to bring some of our family recipes to share," he explained, holding up a covered dish. "Wonderful!" Sarah exclaimed, trying to contain her excitement. "What's in there?" "A little bit of everything, really. My mom taught me how to make her special chili, and we've got cornbread muffins too," he said, gesturing toward the others, who smiled back with a mix of pride and bashfulness. "Chili. That sounds amazing." Emily piped in, her eyes shining at the idea of something warm and hearty alongside all the sweets. "Can I help you set it up?" Sarah watched her daughter leap into action again. There was something contagious about Emily's zest for helping. It filled her with a renewed sense of determination, watching as one more thread added to their shared community tapestry. The newcomers began to mingle, and laughter resumed its free-flowing course. The room buzzed with energy, a delightful mixture of sweet and savory aromas swirling together. George seized the moment, rallying folks for the talent show. As different voices chimed in with suggestions, plans took shape, and excitement climbed, yet, amid all the laughter and chatter, Sarah couldn't shake off a persistent feeling. She glanced at the newcomers, who seemed a bit reserved amidst the jovial chaos. Were they really welcomed? Did they feel part of this unfolding celebration? She approached them, extending her hand to the young man. "I'm so glad you came. We could use more friends. What are your names?" Their stiff postures relaxed as they introduced themselves: Matt, Lisa, and Janelle. Each had their own story about their connection to the town, how they just moved here for new opportunities, hoping to find a slice of home. That's just it. Sarah thought, her heart swelling. Home is what we all crave, isn't it? As the evening progressed, Sarah found herself watching the scene unfold: the intertwined lives of the old and young, the laughter shared by newcomers and longtime residents. It felt so right, so powerful. "Mom, are we going to perform?" Emily nudged her gently, pulling Sarah from her reverie. "Oh, yes. We definitely should. Why not kick things off?" Sarah replied, a playful light glinting in her eye. The idea sprung forth as if they'd both been hit by the same burst of inspiration. The crowd began to gather, curious glances exchanged as a circular space formed in the middle. Laughter bubbled around them, but just as Sarah stood to speak, she caught a glimpse of someone at the back, a familiar face that sent a shiver of recognition and dread through her. It was Jessica, the one who had always found ways to prove Sarah's confidence false. What was she doing here? Would this newfound spirit hold strong with her presence? Scrambling for composure, Sarah's grip tightened around Emily's hand. In that moment, she realized that every voice mattered, and this night was theirs to uphold, together. The energy shifted as whispers danced through the crowd, but one question echoed louder within her: could the spirit of community endure these new challenges? And just then, the spotlight turned in Jessica's direction. What would she say? How would the group react? The next moments would determine the evening's legacy, and Sarah braced herself for the unexpected turn. The light flickered for a moment, a soft hush falling over the crowd as Jessica stepped forward. Her presence was magnetic, yet Sarah's heart sank. Would the old wounds of their past resurface? "Hello, everyone." Jessica's voice sliced through the heavy silence, her tone both confident and sharp. "I see we've got quite the gathering here." A few laughter-strained smiles greeted her, but Sarah noticed Matt tugging at Lisa's sleeve, as if seeking reassurance. I'm Jessica," she continued, scanning the room and catching Sarah's eye. A challenging spark glimmered there, just for a second. "I know some of you don't remember me, but I used to come to gatherings like this." A murmur went through the group. Sarah felt a rush of fear and anticipation swell within her. Would Jessica stir up memories better left buried? "Let me tell you," Jessica continued, her confidence pouring out like a river. "These events matter. Community matters. As people, we need connection, and it all starts with a potluck." Her gaze softened slightly, perhaps it held sincerity and maybe even an echo of vulnerability. Sarah felt a small shift in the atmosphere. Conversation started to blossom amidst the crowd, and even George stepped in, leaning against the makeshift stage, ready to back up Sarah and Emily's impending performance. "Thank you for joining us, Jessica," Sarah called out, her voice steady, though every muscle in her body was taut with tension. "We're so glad our community is growing. It's all about finding our place together." Jessica's features softened as she took a deliberate step back, the challenge easing slightly as recognition flashed in her eyes. Sarah could sense the crowd growing warm and welcoming again together, despite old rivalries. With a quick nudge from Emily, Sarah took a breath and stood taller. "All right, let us bring some joy into this room. My daughter and I want to perform a little song to kick off the fun tonight." Cheers erupted from the crowd, encouragement erupting like fireworks. In that heartbeat, Sarah caught sight of the newcomers' faces. Janelle looked nervous, chewing her lip, while Lisa leaned against Matt, her smile tentative yet excited. Sarah felt the warmth flood through her. How absurd to let past grievances define this moment. This was their chance to create a new beginning. As they began to sing, the laughter and joy soared like balloons filled with hope. Voices merged and flowed together, filling the cracks of doubt. Sarah lost herself in the music, each note lifting her spirits until she felt light. It was beautiful, and she glanced around, catching snippets of smiles and clapping, feeling the rhythm of community reclaiming its place, but as the clapping subsided, Jessica stepped forward again, her face lit with a new determination. "I have a talent, too," she called out, her usual bravado tempered with something softer. "Maybe I can share that?" The room buzzed with excitement and confusion. Would they welcome her vulnerability? Sarah's heart quickened. Just a thread could connect them all, a simple leap of faith could build bridges. As Jessica took a deep breath, it was clear they stood at a crossroads. What would she share? Who would reach out to her? The evening had shifted dramatically, yet more twists awaited, and within that charged moment, a dialogue pulsed alive, a chance for connection or division. Would the community embrace this new challenge, or would past grievances refuse to budge? Sarah held her breath, the realization settling in, tonight might change everything. What awaited them in this delicate threshold? Jessica's fingers trembled slightly as she moved toward the microphone, the room holding its breath. I've always loved to dance," she said, her voice shaky yet resolute. "It's been my way of connecting with people and expressing myself." The murmurs in the crowd shifted from uncertainty to curiosity. Sarah could see tension seep out like air from a deflating balloon. A small smile crossed Jessica's lips, and she began to sway gently, her body finding a rhythm in the moment, as if coaxing the audience to join her. "Dance with me?" she invited, sincerity weaving through her words. Sarah looked around. Janelle's eyes widened, then lit up with excitement. Lisa laughed, nudging Matt, who was finally cracking a smile. One by one, people shifted in their seats, some beginning to stand, their bodies desperate to join the joyous invitation. George's long-standing laughter rang through as he stepped forward, encouraging others. As Jessica's movements became bolder, Sarah found herself captivated. It wasn't just a dance, it became a bridge. Sarah felt the nostalgic tinge of their childhood dances, the innocence of once upon a time when they were still connected. Those memories didn't have to be buried. They could rise anew, fused with hope instead. "Come on, Sarah." Emily pulled at her sleeve, her enthusiasm infectious. "Let us go dance." Before she realized it, Sarah was swept along, and soon, the stage was filled with a whirl of eager bodies. The music found its way back, this time a cheerful tune thumping through the room. As they danced, the past started mingling with the present, a tapestry of old wounds unfurling to make space for healing and laughter. In that wild moment, Sarah couldn't help but glance at Jessica. She saw her light, no longer cloaked by the shadows of their history. Sarah's heart softened, recognizing the common thread that wove through their lives, a desire for connection and belonging, but then, as the last notes of the song faded, something shifted in Jessica. Realization flickered across her face, as if she recognized the burden she carried too. Suddenly, she stepped back, her eyes scanning the crowd as if searching for clarity. "I need to be honest," she said, her voice breaking through the chatter. Sarah felt it, a collective intake of breath. Everyone was listening, eyes locked onto Jessica, waiting. "I disappeared for so long because I was scared. Scared of not being good enough, scared of losing friends like you all." Her gaze locked onto Sarah's, vulnerability flickering in her eyes. "I thought staying away would be easier. But..." She hesitated, the tension palpable. "But I see now that I didn't just lose time, I lost connections that mattered." A hush fell over the crowd. The unspoken truth hung in the air, bringing light to every shadowed corner. The atmosphere shifted once more, a tapestry of emotions weaving through the room: understanding, empathy, perhaps even regret. Sarah took a small step forward, her heart racing. "We've all been scared," she admitted, feeling the warmth of the truth spilling from her throat. "But we're here now. Tonight can be different, we can start fresh." As Jessica nodded, the crowd erupted with soft applause, a wave of acceptance washing over them all. But before the mood could settle, a voice broke through the gathering hum. "What do we do next?" It was Janelle, her brows crinkled in genuine concern. Sarah felt a ripple of anticipation swirl around them, beckoning with possibility. Will they embrace this newfound bond and shape it into something lasting, or would doubt creep back in? In that moment, the path forward loomed, dazzling yet shadowed, just waiting for them to decide. What would define this community? Would they weave old friendships anew or let uncertainty tear them apart again? As Sarah looked around, the future stretched out before them, bright yet undefined. What lay ahead could change everything. The potluck buzzed with an energy Sarah had never felt before. It wasn't just food filling the room, it was connection, warmth, and an unexpected treasure of hope. The shared laughter and unguarded smiles forged bonds greater than any gathering she had ever witnessed. Every time Sarah glanced around, the faces reflected a tapestry of stories of struggle, resilience, and an unquenchable thirst for belonging. This wasn't the end either, it was a glorious beginning, a reset for everyone involved. As the evening unfolded, the atmosphere shifted into something electric. Emily beamed as she danced with newfound friends, her laughter ringing with pure delight. Sarah couldn't help but smile in return, a heart so full it felt like it might burst. Just moments ago, tension had hung in the air like an unwelcome guest, but now hope danced freely. Jessica stood off to the side, a shift in her aura after her heartfelt confession. There was lightness in her spirit as she mingled, connecting with others in ways they hadn't for years. Sarah felt drawn to her, compelled to bridge a gap that had lingered between them for far too long. She approached, heart racing in anticipation. "I'm really glad you're here, Jessica." "It feels right," Sarah said, her voice steady. Jessica smiled softly, genuine warmth in her eyes. "Thank you for giving me a chance, Sarah. I see now how easy it is to get lost. But being here, it feels like home." Laughter erupted from the group surrounding them, all ages, all backgrounds, all contributing to this beautiful mosaic they were crafting together. Sarah reflected on the challenges that had led them here, uncertain yet emboldened. She thought of Jim, the community member they had rallied for. She glanced toward the door, half expecting him to come through, but even in his absence, she could feel his spirit woven into the fabric of this night. Then Emily caught Sarah's gaze. "Can I lead the next activity, Mom?" she asked, her enthusiasm vexing any lingering doubts within Sarah. "Of course," Sarah replied, her chest swelling with pride as Emily darted towards the makeshift stage, gathered everyone's attention, and shared her idea for a fun group game. The room filled with laughter as they played, adults and teens forgot their worries momentarily, caught up in the joy of the game. As the energy skyrocketed, something clicked within Sarah. This was more than a potluck, it was a movement that could reclaim the strength of their neighborhood. As the game wrapped, Sarah stood before the group, heart aflutter with a vision. "Can we take this further?" she asked, voice steady yet filled with excitement. "We've seen the power of coming together tonight, but what if we didn't stop here? What if this was just the first step to building something more significant?" The crowd buzzed with reaction, surprise giving way to curiosity. "Let us establish monthly gatherings," she continued passionately. "Let us share resources, provide for one another, truly support each other beyond this space." Hearty nods rippled through the crowd, and encouragement grew, igniting even the most hesitant. Voices murmured in agreement, excitement spiraling. Mr. Collins stood taller, his confidence visible. "I'd be honored to help coordinate," he boomed, his eyes reflecting vibrant energy. "We all have a role to play." As the proposal took shape, an overwhelming wave of gratitude and belonging washed over Sarah. She felt stronger than she had in a long time. Emily beamed proudly beside her, knowing they were fostering lasting change. The night unfolded with shared aspirations, laughter, and promises to gather again. They exchanged contact information and made plans, each person energized by a newfound sense of ownership in the community. As the event wound down, a gentle fatigue softened Sarah's muscles. The chaos of the evening had transformed into beautiful memories, and she felt as if they decrossed an invisible threshold together. At last, they had breathed life back into this space, reclaiming it from the shadows of disconnection. "Thank you," Sarah said to Emily as they tidied up the remnants of their gathering, the cheerful din slowly fading. "Mom, I get it now." Emily's eyes sparkled. "We can actually make a difference. We've got something special." A flutter of joy filled Sarah's heart. They had transformed from an isolated mother-daughter duo into a vibrant part of something larger than themselves. Their community was no longer just a collection of houses, it was a family. And standing at the forefront of it all, Sarah felt an unshakable hope that this connection wouldn't just last, it would grow, bloom, and flourish into a refuge for all. Together, they flipped the last chair and shared knowing smiles, a silent acknowledgement of a journey that had just begun. This was only the beginning. The revitalized spirit of Omaha was alive, and Sarah knew she couldn't do it alone anymore. It was time to tell everyone their story, the journey of rebuilding and reviving hope in every heart they touched. And so, she turned to the camera on her phone, eager to document the magic of the evening. "Hey everyone, welcome. If you found something special in tonight's gathering, something you want to be a part of, please support us. This is the moment to show your support. Hit that subscribe button now. Leave a like to feed the algorithm, help us reach more people craving connection. I want to hear your feelings about this transformation, so comment below and share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness the power of community. Don't wait not even one more second. This moment can change someone's life, just like it has ours. Let us spread hope together.